It's the early hours of December 1st, 1948. On Somerton Beach near Adelaide, Australia, a couple makes a grim discovery. The body of a man slumped lifeless against the seawall. He appears about 40-ish, clean-shaven and well-dressed in a suit and polished shoes, with his legs extended and feet crossed as if peacefully asleep. A half-smoked cigarette rests oddly on his collar, as though it fell from his mouth at the moment of death. The authorities are baffled. Who is this man, and what story died with him on the beach? Strange clues on a silent body. Investigators find no wallet, no ID, not even a hat, a curious absence in 1940s fashion. In the man's pockets, they discover a few mundane items: an unused train ticket from Adelaide to the suburb, a bus ticket, a pack of juicy fruit chewing gum, a pack of Army Club cigarettes with 7 cigarettes of another brand considered inside, and a book of matches. All labels on his clothing have been meticulously cut off, as if someone wanted to erase any trace of where they came from. Whoever this mystery man is, he clearly did not want to be identified easily. Over the next days, police struggle to find leads. No missing person report matches him. Dozens of people file past the embalmed body, hoping to recognize a lost friend or relative, but no one knows him. An autopsy reveals an unsettling puzzle. The man was in top physical condition, with the physique of an athlete, and showed no signs of violence. Yet his organs were congested with blood. His spleen was grossly enlarged, and his stomach contained the remains of a pastry he ate hours before death. Curiously, tests find no obvious poison, but the medical examiner is convinced the death was far from natural. In fact, a prominent pharmacologist testifies that certain rare poisons, later revealed as digitalis and Wabain, could have caused a man's death and decomposed without a trace. It's as if the Somerton man was killed by a ghost, a poison that vanished, leaving only mystery behind. A break in the case comes 2 weeks later. An unclaimed brown suitcase, checked into Adelaide's train station cloakroom on November 30th, is discovered and linked to the dead man. Inside the case, detectives find clothing that strangely also has its labels removed. However, on a couple of items they spot the name T. Keane. There's a tie with T. Keane and a laundry bag with Keane stenciled on it. Was Keane the man's name? The police run a thorough search, but no missing person named T. Keane emerges in any English-speaking country. It looks like yet another dead end. Investigators suspect the tags were left on purpose. A false clue by someone who knew the dead man's identity was not Keane. Other odd items in the suitcase include a table knife sharpened into a makeshift weapon, a pair of scissors, and a spool of orange thread identical to a repair in the man's trouser pocket. Every discovery seems to answer one question only to raise even more. Meanwhile, witnesses come forward with recollections from the night of November 30th. A few people had noticed a man of similar appearance sitting in the same spot at the beach, seemingly alive and just resting. One couple recalled seeing him extend an arm, and then let it drop, a motion they took as maybe a drunken stupor. Another pair saw him from a distance and thought it odd he wasn't reacting to mosquitoes, but assumed he was simply passed out. None realized they might have been watching a dying man. Later analysis of the crime scene raises a chilling possibility. The body's neat appearance, particularly the clean, freshly polished shoes, suggested he hadn't been tramping around the beach or city all day. Could it be that he perished elsewhere and was placed on Somerton Beach after death, staged to look like he died peacefully? The coroner admitted this was possible, noting the lack of typical vomiting or convulsion signs from poison, though it remained pure speculation. The Somerton man's death, it seems, was as mysterious as his identity, the secret pocket in Tamam Shud. As the inquest into the death unfolds months later, investigators discover the most puzzling clue of all. Hidden deep within the dead man's trousers, in a fob pocket, sewn into the lining, there's a tiny rolled-up scrap of paper. On it are 2 words printed in an elaborate script: Tamam Shud. Library experts translate this as Persian, meaning ended or finished. Eerily appropriate for a dead man's final message. It's as if a chapter of book is closed. In fact, that's exactly the case. The words were identified as a final phrase from a book of poetry, the Rubaiyat Omar Khayyam. Detectives realize the scrap must have been torn from the book's last page, which in some editions reads Tamam Shud instead of the end. But where is the book it came from? And how did this obscure piece of Persian poetry end up concealed on this unknown man? When police release a photograph of the paper to the press, the public fascination catches like wildfire. Before long, a man steps forward with an astonishing claim. Shortly after the Somerton man's body was found, he discovered a copy of the Rubaiyat tossed in the back of his car, and its missing phrase Tamam Shud on the final page. This man, pseudonymously called Ronald Francis by police, hands over the book. Sure enough, a piece has been ripped from the end, and tests confirm it matches the tiny scrap exactly. It's a 1941 edition of the Rubaiyat, published in New Zealand, a relatively rare print. Suddenly, what began as a local mystery takes on the air of a spy novel. A dead man with no name, an ancient book of poetry, a hidden message that literally says the end, and now a secret code. In the back of that book, faint pencil marks reveal 5 lines of seemingly random capital letters, scrawled as if in a hurry. Some letters are crossed out, and one line is struck through, a secret message or the ravings of a madman. To the untrained eye, it looks like gibberish. Rgobab/Mliawi/Pimpinip/NLAQZ/Msamsgab. Code experts are called in to decipher the cryptogram. The Australian Department of Defense examines it in 1949, but reports that the text is too short to meaningfully decode. It might be an unbreakable one-time pad cipher, or just meaningless letters. Decades later, amateur and professional cryptographers alike are still obsessed with these letters. Did the Somerton man pen a final secret message? One theory is that each letter is the initial of a word in an English sentence, a kind of shorthand. But despite countless attempts, no one has ever definitively cracked the code. The code, like the man, refuses to give up its secret. Along with the code, the police find a phone number penciled inside the book's cover. The number leads them to a young nurse named Jessica Thompson, who lived near Somerton Beach. Interviewed in 1949, Jessica, nicknamed Jo or Jestin, admits she once owned a copy of the Rubaiyat. She had given it to an Australian Army lieutenant named Alf Boxall during World War II, but she insists she doesn't know the dead man, nor why her unlisted telephone number was in his book. Detectives note Jessica's reactions. When shown the plaster cast bust of the Somerton man's face, she was reportedly completely taken aback, almost to the point of fainting. To some investigators, it seemed she did recognize him but refused to speak. In fact, one detective later said he believed Jessica knew the man's identity all along. Yet Jessica Thompson took whatever she knew to her grave, and her true connection, if any, to the Somerton man remains another tantalizing loose end. Theories and espionage whispers. With such bizarre evidence, the Somerton man case became an international sensation. For over 70 years, armchair detectives and experts alike wove elaborate theories to explain the enigma. Here are a few of the enduring hypotheses. Cold War spy. The late 1940s were the dawn of the Cold War, and Adelaide was not far from military research sites. Was our unknown man a spy caught in cloak and dagger intrigue? Many speculated he was a Russian agent carrying secret codes, eliminated by unknown assassins. The untraceable poison and cipher fueled this theory. During that era, an unidentified, fit man with a mysterious code practically screamed espionage to the public imagination. Could Tamam Shud have been a spy's final signal? A message that a mission or his life was finished. Ill-fated romance. Another theory paints the Somerton man as a tragic lover. Perhaps Tamam Shud was a suicide note of sorts, a poetic farewell. The Rubaiyat's theme is about having no regrets when life ends, which led some police at the time to suspect a romantic suicide scenario. In this telling, the man might have been heartbroken, maybe pining for a woman like Jessica Thompson, and took poison to end it all in a dramatic fashion. One piece of speculation even suggested that Jessica's toddler son, who grew up to be a ballet dancer, was actually fathered by the Somerton man during a wartime affair. Curiously, the unknown man's legs and feet showed features common to ballet dancers, lending a dash of plausibility to the idea. Could he have been a father desperate to see his child, only to be rejected and choose to die? It sounds like the plot of a noir film, and indeed, for years some believed the Somerton man was a spurned lover who fathered Jessica's child. Other speculations. Over time, just about every possibility was discussed. Was he an out-of-work sailor or soldier carrying tools from merchant ships? A criminal on the run, who took poison to avoid capture. There were even wild claims of links to other mysterious deaths in Australia. Yet, despite the endless theories, no proof emerged to solve the riddle. The case was often dubbed the Tamam Shud case, immortalizing that final cryptic clue. It seemed the Somerton man's secrets were destined to stay buried with him. For decades, the identity of Somerton Man remained one of the world's most notorious unsolved cases, an enduring mystery often compared to an unfinished novel. Investigators periodically revisited the cold case, and as science advanced, so did hopes of new answers, which brings us to the modern breakthrough. The 2022 DNA breakthrough, identity at last. In July 2022, after 73 years of speculation, the Somerton man finally got his name back. A dedicated Australian researcher, Professor Derek Abbott, along with American genealogist Colleen Fitzpatrick, used cutting-edge forensic genealogy to crack the case. They obtained DNA from strands of the man's hair, which had been trapped in the plaster death mask made in 1949. By analyzing this DNA and constructing an extensive family tree, the researchers identified the man as Charles Webb, a 43-year-old electrical engineer from Melbourne. Webb was the youngest of 6 siblings, a quiet, literate man who wrote poetry and enjoyed betting on horse races. In fact, archival records showed that in 1947 Webb had separated from his wife, and intriguingly, his estranged wife had moved to South Australia, not far from where the Somerton man died. Perhaps Webb journeyed to Adelaide to seek her out, which might explain his presence there with no obvious business. The DNA evidence was striking. It matched Webb's distant cousins on both his maternal and paternal sides, triangulating his identity with a high degree of confidence. This wasn't just a familial hint. It was a neon sign pointing to the Webb family line. The once unknown man of Somerton Beach was now known to be Carl Webb, born 1905 in Victoria, Australia. And suddenly, many of the case's lingering oddities began to make more sense. For instance, remember the T. Keene labels on the clothes? It turns out Webb had a relative named Thomas Keene, identified in some accounts as a brother-in-law, in others as a nephew, whose clothing Webb likely inherited as hand-me-downs. That neatly explains why no one named Keene was missing, and why the tags were there. The mysterious code in the Rubaiyat? Derek Abbott suspected it was not a code at all, but perhaps the initial letters of some words Webb jotted down, possibly lines of poetry, or even a list of horses. Webb was an avid horse race gambler. In other words, the Somerton man may not have been an international spy communicating in cipher, but rather a private, melancholic man with a penchant for verse and a gambling habit. With the identification of Carl Webb, one of the greatest cold cases in Australian history seemed to be solved. Yet, in many ways, the mystery lives on. We now know who the Somerton man was, but we still don't know how or why he died on that beach. The official cause of death remains unknown. The original coroner could only conclude that he was likely poisoned, but he couldn't determine whether it was self-administered or murder. Was Carl Webb so heartbroken from a failed marriage or personal demons that he took his own life with a hidden poison, staging an enigmatic poetic suicide? Or did he run afoul of someone who ended his life, leaving the puzzling book as a calling card? Despite identifying Webb's name, no diary or letter has emerged to explain the Tamam Shud scrap or the purpose of the letter code. The nurse, Jessica Thompson, who many suspect knew more, never revealed anything that definitively ties back to Carl Webb. In fact, DNA has ruled out one long-suspected link. Webb was not the father of Jessica's child. Tests showed no relation, putting to rest that particular theory. But countless questions remain. How did Webb obtain Jessica's phone number, and why did he have her copy of the Rubaiyat in the first place? What exactly were the circumstances that led to his death on Somerton Beach? The Somerton man story underscores the fact that truth can be stranger than fiction. Even with modern science finally identifying Carl Webb, the case retains an aura of haunting intrigue. To this day, his gravestone in Adelaide still reads, **, here lies the unknown man who was found at Somerton Beach, December 1st, 1948. It's a poignant reminder that for all we've learned, the Somerton man's tale is not fully told. Charles Webb now has his name etched in history, yet the ultimate conclusion, the why of his demise, remains elusive Was Tamam Shud meant to signify the end of his life's chapter by his own hand, or was it a killer's taunt that the end had come? We are left with an identified body, but an unsolved puzzle. The code found in the book has never been definitively deciphered. It may never yield its meaning. The true cause of his death might forever evade proof, loss of time. What we do know is that this case has finally given a name to a man who lost his identity for over 7 decades. Yet, in solving one aspect of the Somerton Man mystery, we've unlocked new questions. It's the kind of story that reminds us that real life can resist a tidy resolution. The Somerton Man saga, with its hidden poem, secret code, and unanswered questions, continues to captivate and mystify, inviting each new generation to wonder and speculate. In the end, Tamam Shud, it is finished, was only the beginning of one of the world's most enduring true crime mysteries. If you found this investigation intriguing, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into true crime and mysteries. Share your theories in the comments. Was the Somerton Man a spy, a lover scorned, or something else entirely? We'd love to hear what you think happened. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss an update on our latest explorations of unsolved cases. Check out our other videos for more fascinating true crime stories and historical whodunits. There are plenty more mysteries waiting to be unraveled. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, spread the word, and remember to stay curious. The truth is often hidden in plain sight.